On this episode of Makes Remote Work, I'm joined by Jon Nordmark, who built eBags in the early days of e-commerce and now runs Iterate, a global AI company with a fully distributed team. We talk about what he had to unlearn moving from an in-office culture to a remote one and how he keeps his teams connected and creative. Let's take a listen. Hello, Jon. Very nice to see
Hello,
you.
John. Yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us here today. I'm really psyched up about this one. You are a very interesting guy, and I'm just excited to have you here on the podcast. So thanks a lot for the time
Well,
today.
yeah, thank you, John. Always like talking to you.
Cool. Well, let's just jump right into it. You've not a lot of people may know this, but you founded eBags, right? So
Right.
eBags, for those
Yeah.
of you who are not aware, was a company started in like the around the late '90s, early
Yeah.
2000s, right?
Late 90s.
And
Yeah.
and it was wildly successful. You sold millions of bags, so anything from handbags to luggage. And it eventually was acquired by Samsonite. Is that right? In
Yep. Samsonite bought it.
2017.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
and what you're doing today is quite different. You're running
Yeah.
an AI company, Iterate.ai, right? So tell me about how you decided to shift industries, right? Because those two things are wildly different.
When I was working at eBags, I think I sort of got jealous of all the people selling us software. I don't know if I was jealous, but I was really interested in it. And as I got more intrigued by all the software, then I just decided when I do this again, I want to do software. But in both cases, it just requires you to hook up with the people that are domain experts, like in this case, building software or building AI. But what I bring to the party is more of the UX because that was what was required at eBags. You had to have a great user experience or people wouldn't convert.
Mhm.
Well, the same is true for software.
And tell me a little bit about what Iterate does today, the value it provides.
Well, Iterate creates AI for the enterprise. And what we do that's unique in that front is we built private AI. We can take language models, reconfigure them, bring them onto hardware that resides behind like a firewall or in a private cloud on a small number of devices rather than having to run a language model, let's say, across 1,000 GPUs at once. And the privacy is really important, especially for regulated industries like healthcare. So we just help companies keep everything private.
Nice. Okay. And in terms of managing the two companies and the teams,
Yeah.
obviously they're coming up in different eras.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine the eBags
Uh-huh.
team had many remote workers, if any, but now
Yeah.
you're running a globally distributed team. So has anything changed in your leadership style? Are there
Yeah.
things that you miss about the old way or things that, you're happy to leave behind? Like how has that impacted you in your shift as a leader or for your teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right, John. Like with eBags, we had I remember one remote employee, one of our accountants wanted to move home, to Portland.
Hmm.
And we said, okay, he's a great employee, but he just did his work. He was quiet. But today we're almost all remote. We do have 10 people in Denver. We've got like 30 in Silicon Valley and a bunch over in India.
Hmm.
But I think that, yeah, it's a completely different world. And what I love about Rome, when I stumbled across you guys, I, what I missed about the old days at eBags is I used to walk around the office all the time. I'd walk around, drop in people's cube, or office and just sit and chat with them. And that's how I learned. And that's how I stayed connected to everything going on in the business. And in a remote world, that's impossible. In fact, we've got about 100 people and I can feel, or prior to Rome, you can just feel so alone. Like I just work in my office all by myself and never see anybody. And in fact, most of the people I've never even talked to, what Rome has done it's kind of a everyone's got their little virtual office. I can see
Right.
right now everyone who's working. We have 3 floors and I can drop in, go knock on the office door. So it's a lot more like the physical world. And I like that.
So being readily available is something that
Yeah.
obviously you value. Where do you stand with like one-on-one meetings? Because there is a sort of a debate with that. Some people swear by them, other people don't really care for them. It's more of a when you need me, come
Yeah.
find me sort of approach. What's your take on that?
We have a few people here who want the one-on-ones and they typically are the people that have come from a big company and that's what they've done before.
Yeah.
I tend to not like them so much. Like, and one of the reasons is they, you schedule them for an hour or whatever, and then you just fill the time.
People feel
You know,
obligated to fill the full
yeah,
hour. Yeah.
yeah. What I really prefer is just the drop-ins,
Yep.
and I mean, I do have some one-on-ones, but like my partner Brian,
Hmm.
don't have them. But we talk 3 times a day. And I just talked to him right before this meeting. It was probably a 3-minute conversation and it's done. And then sometimes we'll talk for a whole hour. That's one thing that I love about Rome. And it's not, and not to be promoting your company, but it is one thing that I think is really good because I can just have a real quick meeting with someone and then move back to what I'm trying to get done.
Yeah, that's a common thing we hear. That whole just human element of just popping by and saying hello, not even necessarily coming with an agenda. I want to wrap up with this one here. You work in the AI space, and we're
Yeah.
obviously, I don't even want to say entering, we are in the age of AI at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that change with that. A lot of processes get kind of melted
Yeah.
together. People are able to access different tools more frequently. How important is creativity and engagement to you as a leader with your team to the point where you're making sure that people aren't over leveraging these tools? Obviously, they're there to help us and make us more
Yeah.
productive, but how do you prevent people from being, for lack of a better word, like button pushers? You want them to stay engaged and creative, and meet with one another, and still use that part of their brain, right?
Yeah.
How do you manage your teams to make sure that they're still doing that?
Company is a believer in the human in the loop.
Hmm.
We build, like you just said, John, we everything we build is AI. We've been doing it for since 2015, so we've been doing it a long time, but we've never gotten to the point where we feel like the AI should run itself. So what the AI does, it is so powerful, is just speeds things along and gets you to version one, faster than
Yeah,
other ways. The AI never has the full context of a person, but
right.
then sometimes it brings a context that the person doesn't have, and by marrying the two, there's quite a bit of power.
In your team meetings, when you're brainstorming maybe new product ideas, is there like a structure to it? Are you hands-on in that sort of way where you want to be in the know of everything that's going back and forth? Do things just come across your desk when they get there? Like how's your leadership style in that sort of frame? Like,
It's just baked into my thinking that anyone can have a good idea. And thankfully, my partner Brian, he's the same way. We just want everyone to contribute. And then it becomes a choice of, how hard is it to bring that idea to life. I think that's one reason people like working here. It's because we really value those. And, our lifeblood is our ability to stay ahead. And usually our people, the people's ideas are the ones that help us stay there.
that's great. Well, in the spirit of quick, short meetings, I just want to, wrap this up here and say thank you very much for joining me today. Any last words before we sign off?
No, just thank you, and I appreciate Rome. I'm really glad it came along. I don't know how many people I show. I'm like, check out our office, and then I show it.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. Thank you very much, everybody. John, have a great rest of your day. Talk soon.
Thank you, John.
Soon.
Take care. Bye bye.